Stadium in Washington, where the revived Redskins take on the Detroit Lions. After sleepwalking through their first 4 games, the Redskins were back on the warpath last Monday night, and this could mean a long afternoon for the Lions, who have never won in Washington since they first played there back in 1938. Also live, you're looking at Milwaukee's County Stadium, where it's the Green Bay Packers against the Minnesota Vikings in a Central Division matchup between the two teams from the deep north. Still live, you're now looking at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, where the Bengals play host to the New York Giants in an NFL version of a blind date. These two teams have only played each other twice, the last time in 1977. But after a few early hits to get acquainted, they'll know what moves to make. And finally, you are looking live at Tampa Stadium, where the winless Buccaneers square off against the unbeaten Los Angeles Rams. Here we have a matchup between two of the game's best runners, the much-heralded Eric Dickerson of the Rams and the unknown warrior of the NFL, the Bucs' James Wilder, who almost unnoticed is leading the league in rushing.
Joe Montana is merely the latest in the long line of great 49er quarterbacks. You see, I'm old enough to remember Frankie Albert when he led the team back in the 40s. Then came Y.A. Tittle, and after Tittle came another fella who wasn't too bad. You see, I have to say that because John Brody is our special guest on the NFL Today.
Later today, most of you will see our mid-season headliner, the rematch of last year's NFC Championship game between the 49ers and the Chicago Bears here in San Francisco. I'll be taking a close look at the new double-threat star of the 49ers, Roger Craig.
Hey, Xerox antifreeze and coolant. Don't face winter without it. The 1985 Volkswagens. It's not a car, it's a Volkswagen. And by True Value Hardware Stores. The more you've got to do, the more you need True Value. We've got what it takes. And now, here's Brent Musburger.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Week 6 on the NFL Today. You know, even though it's only mid-October, the San Francisco 49ers find themselves at a critical turning point in their drive for a third straight title in the NFC West. Consider this. If the 49ers lose to the Bears today and the unbeaten Rams defeat Tampa Bay, the Rams will be in command in the West. Now, one man who's delighted with that prospect is Ram coach John Robinson, as he made clear when we talked to him just a few moments ago down in Tampa.
It's clear to everybody in the NFL the 49er-Bear game is a big game because of they're both very powerful teams. If the 49ers lose and we win, we're 3 up, and that's, of course, big news for us.
Well, Jimmy, out in San Francisco in the championship game, though, the 49ers stomped on the Bears.
Yeah, but let's not forget one thing. They didn't have McMahon at quarterback.
That's right. Well, Irv Cross is out there enjoying the sidelines, Jimmy. And, Irv, as I look at Candlestick right now, it seems more like a setting for a Giant baseball game than a 49er football game.
That's only because we were a couple hours before kickoff, Brett. You know, the 49er front office said a ticket for this game was hotter than a Super Bowl ticket, so this place is going to be overflowing with football fans. The baseball Giants didn't have that kind of fortune out here, but, you know, when the 49ers take the field, they come out through a dugout tunnel. But there's a big debate going on in this town as to whether the San Francisco Giants will ever use the dugout again. Now, why wouldn't the Giants return here to Candlestick? Mark Twain provides an answer. Twain said the coldest winter I ever spent was one summer in San Francisco. Now, the weather has always been a problem out here at the stadium, but this year the team's play was even more miserable than the atmospheric conditions. The Giants finished up with 100 losses and in last place in the National League West. And attendance was as low as 1,200 for one game. As for fan support, well, both of them were loyal. What it boils down to is that the Giants just don't want to play here anymore.
Candlestick Park has become the worst facility in Major League Baseball, and the Giants will never again achieve the greatness which was once the trademark of this franchise, so long as we are at Candlestick Park.
Keeping the Giants here means a new stadium. We want to get that new stadium ready to play ball as soon as possible.
Another football note, Joe Montana has been raising some eyebrows around town because a couple of weeks ago, after the team played the New Orleans Saints, a disgruntled fan wrote in and said that the team's Mickey Mouse offense forced him to leave the game at halftime. So Montana responded with a little note of his own. He wrote back to the fan, and this is what he said to them. "I'm glad you left early. We don't need your kind of support. You're not a real 49er faithful," signed Joe Montana. Montana later admitted that he blew his cool and sent the letter out prematurely, but you just wonder if the 49ers fall behind today, if he'll be greeted with cheers or boos, Brent.
I'm betting on the chairs, Herb. Jimmy, what about the Giants saying they're going to go over to Oakland to play in the Coliseum?
Don't you think that this clears the way for them to go to Denver?
Oh, you're right about that. You know, Rocky Bridges, the third base coach, had a great line about the crowds out in San Francisco. He said, you know, at most stadiums, they announce the crowd total. Here we introduce all of those who show up. How about a little top 10 this week? Well, let's boost Michigan back up to the #1 spot. Rate Iowa second. Let them settle it next Saturday for once and for all in Iowa City. Oklahoma's coming. They beat Texas in a big one. Third, Nebraska, very impressive last night at beating Oklahoma State. Arkansas remains unbeaten. The next 5 would look like this: Penn State, Florida, BYU, Auburn, and in the 10th spot, the Pentagon. Because, well, the Air Force and the Army both stay unbeaten. And don't forget, the Navy airplanes made a big interception a little bit earlier in the week. When we come back, we're going to talk live to 2 of my favorite people, Whitey Herzog, the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, and Tommy Lasorda of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And we'll continue on the NFL Today in just a moment. A question: who has replaced Casey Stengel as the best friend of sports writers? Well, 2 managers are tied for that honor. Simply amazing. And you can look it up. And here they are, Whitey Herzog of the Cardinals and Tommy Lasorda of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Tommy, let me start with you with a question about your shortstop, Mariano Duncan. He could not play yesterday. How is he? How badly was he injured in the first inning of Game 2?
Well, I saw Mariano last night as he was coming out from dinner, and I was getting ready to go to dinner. And he made me enjoy my dinner very, very much when he told me he thinks he'll be able to play today. So that is good news for us, Brent.
Now, of course, he was hit hard at second base. Vince Coleman was going into him. Was it the cut that kept him out of the lineup, Tommy, or the trauma on the knee?
No, it wasn't the cut at all, because it just kind of cut the skin a little bit. But it was him being hit on the side of the knee where he's got sort of a ligament that has been bothering him. And I believe he's going to try it today, but it's been a tough thing. You know, Coleman goes in so hard into second base with such tremendous speed, and he was coming over to cover at the same time, and that's what caused the accident.
Whitey, I have a question about Joaquin Andújar. I remember your great line earlier this summer when you said if he gets $1 million to pitch, I should get $1 million to manage him. And some of the players indicating that maybe they've lost a little confidence in Joaquin. Now, your job as a manager is to get him bolstered back up, get that confidence back. How are you going to approach that with him?
Well, actually, Joaquin's pitched pretty well here the last 4 years, and I'd have to say the fact that he was probably the best pitcher in our league in 1982 when we won it all. He was great in the playoffs and the World Series, and last year, of course, he was a 20-game winner. This year, he had a great first half. I know it's been a little rocky for him his last 20 starts. I read the other day he's only had 1 complete game. But I've been pretty pleased with him. Even the other night in Dodger Stadium when he started off the ball game, I thought he had very good stuff. I really, really thought he had shutout stuff. I thought we had a good chance after we had a run or two that we had a chance to win. And how do I approach that with Joaquin? Let's put it this way. If we have to go to 6 or 7 games, I'm sure you're going to see Joaquin Andújar.
All right. Whitey, what happens to the Cardinals when they get back home on the carpet? We've got this great play by Terry Pendleton going down into the bullpen to make that catch in foul territory. Why are you so much better defensively?
Oh, I don't think we are, Brent. I don't agree with that at all. I think we're a good defensive team anywhere. And just because we made a couple of good plays and made a couple of errors in Dodger Stadium doesn't mean we can't play good in Dodger Stadium. When we're playing good defensively, we can play on the moon. I know they got some craters up there.
Tommy, let me ask you about Pedro Guerrero. And looking at him at his last at bat, I thought maybe that wrist was coming off the bat a little bit. Has he been bothered by that injury?
No, I think his wrist is much, much better in the last couple of games, Brent. And that's good news for us because we need him. He is an outstanding ball player, and having him up at bat for you, it makes a lot of things happen. So I think his wrist is good, and he's having a good series thus far, and we're looking forward to him to continue in that manner.
Whitey, who do you want to play in the World Series, Toronto or Kansas City?
Right now, I'd just like to beat the Dodgers 3 more times. I'm not even thinking about that. I've watched Kansas City, Brent, lose a few ball games. They've really lost 2 tough ball games to Toronto. I'm sure Tommy's been watching them, too. And I want to make one comment that Tommy just said about Guerrero. It looks like he and Jack Clark may have a chance to set a playoff record for intentional walks, because looks like Tommy doesn't hesitate to put my guy on, and I sure don't hesitate to put his on.
All right, Whitey and Tommy, thank you for getting up early this morning and being with us from St. Louis.
Well,
and of course,
to talk to you, Brandon. Come on back.
I'll be back tomorrow. But right now, I've got to go over and talk a little football with my friend Jimmy the Greek and find out who he's picking, San Francisco or Chicago, and we will have that in just a moment. If you'd have just listened to me last week, you'd have been 13 out of 14 instead of 12 out of 14. You had a great week. How about the Bears and the San Francisco 49ers?
Oh, wow, what a game. Of course, it's going to be a barn burner, as everybody says, but I'm going to go along with the 49ers offense. I know that sounds ridiculous when the Bears are leading, right, but I tell you one thing. Walsh understands the Chicago defense. I think he knows Ryan better than anybody. Now, the defense, of course, has got to be almost dead even, but I'm going to go with the 49ers because they're at home on that situation. The special teams are even. The headliners, well, you know, you got a few more headliners over here than you have.
What's this intangible for
I tell you, on grass. It's on grass, and the Bears, for some reason or other, seem to play better on AstroTurf, especially my friend, Mr. Payton.
All right, Jimmy, now, down in Dallas, a big one, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys. How you break that one down?
Well, I'll tell you, there is one thing that doesn't matter. What's his name? Malone is absolutely inconsistent as a quarterback. One day he goes 18 for 18, and the next time he's 2 for 18. So consequently, you got to give the offense to Dallas. You got to give the defense to Dallas, and they better play good, because if they don't play good, I'll tell you, it's going to expose those bad corners Dallas has.
All right.
The special teams are even. The headliners, well, you got Dorsett. And I'll tell you one thing. The intangible thing is this. Why do the Steelers always beat Dallas?
They've really got the whammy on them, don't they? Even in Super Bowls.
But we're going to go
Monday night, Miami and the Jets. Are you as surprised as I am by the Jets' record right now?
Yeah, I'm surprised, but the 4 teams that they've beaten, you know,
but they're still beating them now, Jimmy. You can't put them down just.
I am not going to go with the Jets until
Walt Michaels comes back as coach.
Okay, all right, I'll go for that. But I think he should be. But Miami has a little bit more offense. The defense, I'll tell you something, it's pretty close. The special teams, the Jets are good. And that's no kidding. They've got a lot of speed, and it's there. Right. The headliners have to go to Miami because they've got a few more star players. The intangible part is this. First of all, it's Shula against that fellow, that coach is, what's his name? And then I know his name is Walton, but I just don't want to mention his name. But the single coverage defense that they put on.
I like Joe Walton, folks. I don't know what the Greeks got against him. Let me see if you got some gifts from Jimmy on this Sunday. I think he's better than you think he is.
All right.
Now let me see if you got any good gifts I like. The Rams over Tampa Bay.
Too much defense for the Rams.
Giants over Cincinnati.
Boy, we hope so.
Packers over the Vikings. You say that one's close. How about the Redskins over Detroit? Oh, it's tough to make that pick.
Yeah,
right,
it really is. I tell you,
they're
just too smart for Detroit.
How about some of the rest now? St. Louis, Seattle, and another surprise. The Raiders to beat New Orleans.
Hey,
let's
not forget one thing. New Orleans beat the team.
That's right. They beat the Niners, didn't they? How about New England, Cleveland, Denver, and Kansas City? Jimmy likes all 4 of those teams. And, of course, one of the key men for the San Francisco 49ers is a running back by the name of Roger Craig. And John Brody's going to have a few thoughts, and Irv Cross will take a look at him in San Francisco when we continue in just a moment. Cheerleaders get to Candlestick ahead of the ball players. They start working out earlier, and you know who's watching them carefully is our Irv Cross. Let's go out to Irv in San Francisco, Irv.
Well, you know, Brent, one great thing coming out the remote is you get a chance to see all this pregame ceremony going on out here. You know, when Roger Craig of the 49ers isn't running from scrimmage for big yardage, he's catching Joe Montana's passes for long gains. Now, this two-front attack has made Craig the leading scorer in the NFL with 4 TDs rushing and 4 receiving. In short, Roger is one 49er who's been playing this season like a defending Super Bowl champion.
Craig, up the middle. There he goes. Montana to Craig. Quick handoff. Craig for the score.
When the 49ers and Dolphins met in the Super Bowl here last year, most eyes were focused on the 2 quarterbacks, Joe Montana and Dan Marino. But it was the performance of Roger Craig, a little-known running back from Nebraska, that really shook this stadium.
Here's Montana stepping up, dropping it off short to Craig to the 10. 5 touchdown.
some reporter came up to me after the game and said that, hey, did you know you broke the Super Bowl record, in touchdowns? And I didn't think nothing of it. I was just so happy we won, and knowing that, we got the Super Bowl ring, and it's something I can cherish for the rest of my life.
He's 25 and only his third NFL season, set on becoming football's best all-purpose back. An integral part of San Francisco's peck and paw offense, as much a receiver as a runner.
It's tough to think of him one way or the other. He's both for us, and unfortunately he didn't get the chance to carry the ball as much with a guy like Wendell in the backfield. So you move on and you give him the ball another way. You give him the ball by throwing it to him.
One way or another, Craig will beat you. It's almost as if he knows it's going to happen before it happens.
I really like to visualize what I have to do to get the job done, or as far as on certain plays that I can see myself setting up, faking someone out and scoring, all great backs, have that kind of feeling.
He's got all those great things that you look for in an athlete. He's got great stamina, great durability, really concentrates mentally, so he's the complete football player.
I feel when I'm on a roll as far as in rhythm and running, I feel like I can run all day. It takes over you. You want to just fly. They're counting on me to come up with the big plays. And I have to be ready for that, and I drool on that type of stuff because it brings the best out of you.
He's soaring these days, but his feet are still on the ground. He's just one of the guys, modest, almost to a fault.
Has his relationship changed at all with the offensive line? Is he closer to you guys?
He's still BSing us, telling us a great block after every play, and half the time he's doing it on his own. But he knows how to keep us stroked, so he does a little bit of that too.
He may well be the game's complete running back, and for good reason. He'll do anything it takes to win, and he hates to lose.
When you lose, everyone's down. It's so gloomy. So I love to win, and I drool on winning. I don't care if I carry the ball 2 or 3 times a game. If we win, I'm satisfied.
Coaches are always looking for mismatches in a game, and the staff here in San Francisco seems to think that Roger Craig paired against anybody is a mismatch. So if the Bears hope to win, their defense will have to meet that challenge. Brent?
All right, Eric, thank you. And we welcome the great John Brody, the former quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. John, where do you rank Craig with the NFL running backs?
I rank him 2. And
who's one? Peyton?
Eric Dickerson is a cinch. I think everybody that knows football knows that.
What has Jim McMahon done for the Bear offense this year?
I think what he's done is he's put 4 more guys into the offensive lineup. They've got 3 receivers that are sharing the load. They've got Jim McMahon, who does have a full deck. And if you're a quarterback in Chicago, you may not want to let everybody know it, but he's got one.
All right. John's going to be with us throughout the afternoon. He'll be taking a look at highlights. And when we come back, we will continue with John here on the NFL Today in just a moment. John Brody, what concerns you about the 49ers coming into their big game today?
I think more than anything, a state of urgency. A great team has to have that, and through the first 5 games, they haven't, and this is a perfect time, if they're going to get it, to illustrate that.
The pressure's on him, there's no question about it, and Walsh comes through on those pressure games. But I have to disagree with him on Dickerson and Peyton.
All right. Well, we'll continue throughout the afternoon here with John Brody and Jimmy the Greek. A reminder, of course, coming up at halftime, we'll have all the scores and
Last week, the Giants had the Dallas Cowboys on the ropes, but Phil Simms and center Bart Oates boggled the exchange. Dallas recovered at the Giant 19. They then kicked the field goal and won 30-29. It was a night of frustration for Phil Simms and for his teammates. All was not negative, though. Simms threw for 423 yards, his personal career high, and the second best ever by a Giant. There were also 3 touchdown throws, this one to the ever-improving Lionel Manuel, number 86. Meanwhile, at Cincinnati, flags flew and tempers flared.
This controversial safety call set the stage for the Jets' 29-20 victory over the Bengals. Coach Sam Weiss fumed and argued. Number 21, James Brooks, kicked in anger, and 36 penalty flags were thrown. But now the Bengals have a new leader, big left-handed Boomer Esiason. And Boomer has an outstanding group of receivers led by number 80, Chris Collinsworth. Both teams lost last week. Both need a win, as today the Giants pay a rare visit to Cincinnati.
Today, the New York Giants against the Cincinnati Bengals.
We're live at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio, right by the banks of the Ohio River. A warm and muggy day in Cincinnati. Good afternoon. I'm Pat Summerall here with John Madden. The Giants, of course, you know, are 3-2, coming off a loss. The Bengals are 1-4, but they certainly don't seem like it.
Well, they don't. You know what happens, I think, Pat, when you analyze a team, you tend to analyze it offensively. Now, the Bengals are very good on offense. In fact, they're the third leading scoring team in the league. Their problems are defense and special teams. And if they ever get those two areas straightened out, they're going to be a good team. Now, the Giants hope that they don't start straightening it out today, and the Bengals hope today is the day that they can break through those things.
Well, the Bengals will get their first crack on offense as the Giants' Jess Atkinson will kick off, number 12. Back deep, James Brooks and Mike Martin. Martin ranks third in the AFC. Brooks is back there with him, and that's a change for the Bengals. He went to Sam Weiss and said, I think we need some changes to get this team going. This will be Martin, and he's dangerous. Martin nudges it out just shy of the 30-yard line before Elvis Patterson takes him down. Keep in mind that the Bengals, on a lot of occasions, do not go into a huddle when they have the ball.
Well, I think what they intend to do here, Pat, is huddle up for the first play. The first play is going to be a pass play. I would think it would be a deep one. Then they're going to run their three receivers off the field, run three new receivers on the field, and no huddle, and try and get the second play.
Collinsworth is down to the right. Eddie Brown is split out wide to the left. And here is Esiason back to throw. For Collinsworth. Incomplete. And a flag goes down. Elvis Patterson back there with him. Here come the other three receivers.
And the Bengals are trying to line up right now without a huddle. See, they're trying to get the Giants, catch them off balance here.
Number 34, first down.
I think what happened there, they knew that they were going to throw the first pass deep. They're going to work right away out there on Elvis Patterson. Then they wanted to line up and do it again. But they got the penalty. Now here they are, lined up, no huddle, three new receivers in.
1st and 10 at the Giant 32. Mike Martin is split out wide to the right. Kreider is to the left. Dan Ross is flanked to the left-hand side. And that's Ross in motion. And Esiason goes back quickly to Brooks down the middle. Brooks to about the 15. And again, they hustle back and go with no huddle, a gain of 17.
You know, Sam Weiss is like Bill Walsh in that he has his first 20 plays of the game scripted. They practice these plays all week. They practiced this way yesterday. They know all the plays they're going to do. The only thing is they didn't know that first one was going to be interference. I think that threw them off a little.
Probably did. Now they go back to the huddle. Best laid plans sometimes don't work out. Eddie Brown and Collinsworth both wide to the left. Esiason going back to the air. Collinsworth. Touchdown. He was wrestling with Kenny Hill. Harry Kennard appears to be shaken just a bit, standing back at the back of the end zone. But the Bengals had some strange things happen, but their plan seemed to worry. They said they were going to throw it. Here's Kennard.
It looked like Terry Kennard and Kenny Hill had Chris Collinsworth double team sandwiched between them, and Collinsworth came up with the ball. As you said, that plan, they started out, they didn't know that they were going to get an interference penalty, but the other part of the plan sure worked. Sam White said, we're going to go out and throw and throw and throw against the Giants.
Ryder will hold. Jim Breach will try for the extra point with his size 6 shoes.
White 40! White 40! Ready!
Breach is good. Here's the touchdown.
They have good pass protection. The Bengals start off with good pass protection. Esiason looked to the short guy, and he really did get it into Chris Collinsworth between two defenders.
He has a very strong arm, and he just showed you that he does. Play, 71 yards, 16-yard pass from Esiason to Collinsworth. They just took a minute and 9 seconds to get it done. Reach kickoff off the side of his foot and out of bounds. This is the area, special teams, particularly kickoff coverage, that has really killed the Bengals.
And I think that kick there is one of the things. Jim Breach is trying to kick it to the left side, outside that left hash mark to the sideline. The Bengals are going to overload that side. It's a new kickoff coverage. They're going to put 7 guys on the left side of the kicker, and he's trying to kick it into that left side.
Kenny Hill is over on that side for the Giants. Normally it had been Tony Galbraith, but Hill is there now. In an effort, I guess, John, to psychologically try to inspire the kickoff coverage teams and all of their special teams, which they've had great problems with, they introduced him instead of the defensive unit to the offensive unit. Breach kickoff. This time is a high one. And it will be Kenny Hill. No, McConkey cuts in front of him and takes it. And the coverage is adequate this time. The kick was short, but the kickoff coverage team was down there led by Bill Johnson.
Well, they got exactly what they wanted. They had all their 7 cover guys on the left side. Breach was able to kick it to the left side. Watch, it's on the right-hand side of the screen here. See, he kicks it over there. Now watch all those black jerseys coming down there in unison. You see, that's the thing that they want to get, and then force him into the sideline.
Bavaro moves, and so does Lionel Manuel. Phil Simms, the quarterback, will get the rest of the lineup in just a minute. Manuel in motion. Simms gives to Morris. Right side, nudges to the outside. Spins for maybe 2 or 3. Reggie Williams, the defensive leader, and Bobby Kemp. Here are the Giant offensive backs and receivers. Simms, the quarterback. Morris and Carpenter start as runners. Bobby Johnson and Lionel Manuel, the wide receivers. Up front, it's Benson, Ard, Oates, Chris Godfrey, Carl Nelson, and the tight end is Mike Bavaro. 2nd and 8 from the 27. Byron Williams now into the game. Manuel moves in motion. He's ahead to Carpenter. Carpenter. 4, perhaps. Let's look at the Cincinnati defense. They play a 3-man front. Eddie Edwards and Ross Browner, the defensive ends. Tim Krumrie, the nose tackle. The linebackers are Shoes, Simpkins, Cameron, and Williams. The secondary, Breeden and Horton, the corners. Kemp and Jackson, the safeties. 3rd and 2. Simms from the spread. Looking for Galbraith. And now Simms scrambles for a first down. Another area that has been hurting the Bengals is that they have not been able to get much of a pass rush. We're at Riverfront Stadium. Pat Summerall with John Madden. The Bengals have broken on top. This is the 3rd meeting ever between these two teams. Both times here, both times Cincinnati has won. They lead now 7-0. To Morris. From behind. By Eddie Edwards. Number 73 from the opposite side. They did shift in that direction, however.
That was one of the things that Bill Parcells was talking about last night. He said it's tough when you play a team like Cincinnati that you've never played before. He's never coached against them. Playing in Cincinnati, he said sometimes you have to use the first quarter just to kind of spar to see what they're going to do against what you want to do.
Second and 12.
Go 78! Go 78!
Manuel in motion. Back to throw. We'll have time. We'll get it to Morris. Morris will have a Giant first down in Bengal territory to their 47. Before Bobby Kemp brings him down. The Giants had a problem last week and the week before in the exchange between Bart Oates and Phil Simms. What's going on?
You know, here's one of the things. Watch Phil Simms. He has two positions. This position, and then he puts his hands in deeper on when he wants to snap. See it here? Then he goes there. Now he's ready for the ball. The problem is, if the ball is ever snapped early, he's going to have a fumble.
Back live to Carpenter. Last week against the Cowboys, the Giants were leading, and here's the bobble snap.
I think what happens here, you see he has his hands in a preset. I always like the hands up there where you want it right away. Now, as he's starting to move the hands, the ball is going to be snapped. I think the starting count was 2. The ball was snapped about 1.5. He never gets his left hand up there. You see his left hand? His left hand is separated from the right, and he never gets a handle on the ball.
Morris goes in motion on 2nd and 8. Bengals take the blitz. Simms back to throw. As his man, Lionel Manuel. And it's another Giant first down as they move deeper into Bengal territory. Lewis Breeden made the tackle. A gain of 13. And they'll move the sticks again.
Yeah, I think Lionel Manuel in his second year is becoming one of the best receivers in the league. You know, he can do these things, catch these hooks, the outs, the ends, those intermediate passes, but he also has the moves and quickness to go deep.
And he can run after he catches the ball. Here he comes in motion again. Gives again to Morris. Nothing doing. He's hooked in the backfield and taken down. Reggie Williams was first to get there, and then it was Bobby Kemp.
Well, we always talk about the running game. Watch Reggie Williams, the outside linebacker here. He's going to get across there, and what happens, the back, Rob Carpenter was trying to cut him. And he went in to cut him, and he just missed him. And when you miss a linebacker blitzing the quarterback, when he hands off to the halfback may be missing something.
That is a remarkable young man, Reggie Williams. We'll tell you more about him. 2nd and 14. Simms backpedals. Simms under a blitz. Ron Simpkins. Linebacker Ron Simpkins, the first man to arrive. And Simms loses 10.
Ron Simpkins is an inside linebacker. Williams is the outside, 57. He's coming from the outside. Simpkins is coming right up there in the middle. Phil Simms was going to step up. He said, oh, here comes number 56.
Simms will stand in there and hold the ball in an effort to get it upfield longer than most quarterbacks. He didn't have that much time then. 3rd and 24 from the 45. Simms out of the shotgun. For Manuel. Almost picked off. Intended for McConkey, perhaps. Manuel was also in the plane. But the Bengals hold, and the Giants will have to punt. Simms is upset.
He looks like he's upset with Phil McConkey. I think he expected McConkey to sit down on a hook, and McConkey kept running. He was running one pattern, and Simms was throwing another one.
Sean Landetta, the kicker. Ball takes a funny bounce, goes out of bounds inside the Bengal 10. First and 10 for the Bengals, their own 9, still in the first quarter. 7:58 left to play in the first quarter. The Cincinnati offensive unit. Esiason, the quarterback. Brooks and Alexander, the runners. Collinsworth and Brown, the wide receivers. Munoz, Blados, Remington, Montoya, Wilson, and the tight end is Rodney Holman. And that's a good offensive line.
Hey, they'll fill out a lobby or a bus or an airplane. That's a big offensive line.
Brown is wide right, Collinsworth wide left. See if Esiason goes back to the air again. Yes, sir. To his tight end, Rodney Holman. First down, Bengals at about the 23. The Giant defense. They lead the NFL. Curtis McGriff, Jim Burt, and Leonard Marshall, the front three. Byron Hunt starting in place of Banks, Reasons, Carson, and Lawrence Taylor. In the secondary, Patterson and Williams, the corners, Kenny Hill and Terry Kennard, who is back. He has a bandaged wrist in hand, but is back playing. Casey Merrill making his first appearance of the year, number 71. George Martin goes on the other side. Brooks heading back in the other direction, and Brooks turned near disaster into a gain of about 2 before he's taken down by Harry Carson.
You know, the interesting thing about that, Pat, Casey Merrill and George Martin coming in, the Bengals were passing every down. The Giants weren't able to get their pass rush guys in, so they just put them in on first down. They said, what the heck, they may pass every down in this game, so we'll just put our pass rush guys in now.
6:47 left first quarter. That's the first running play for Cincinnati. 2nd and 8. Bengals at their own 26. Esiason under pressure. He's a good athlete. Chased by Martin. To Brooks. Brooks still on his feet. Brooks whirls into Giant territory. A penalty marker down back at about the 30 in Bengal territory. A gain of 30. Kenny Hill on the stop.
Boomer Esiason caused that play by being able to get outside of Leonard Marshall. Marshall was coming on a rush. Esiason was able to get around him, buy the time, and then find James Brooks.
Jim Tunney is the referee. They had, well, both teams last week, the Jets and the Bengals, both were penalized well over 100 yards apiece.
No foul on the play. Flag will be picked up. Pass is completed. First down.
No foul.
Okay, we're going to see Leonard Marshall is coming from here. He starts here. Esiason starts here, gets outside of Marshall, and then he's able to find Brooks and pick up the play. Now Marshall is going to make a good pass rush. You see him right here? Now he's free. Esiason gets away from Marshall, buys time. Now he finds Brooks here. To me, that play was all Boomer Esiason by being able to get outside of Leonard Marshall.
And he illustrated right there, throwing that ball with that much zip on it. What a great arm he has. Ross in motion. The handoff straight ahead to James Brooks, right up the middle.
You know, talking about that great arm, Sam Weiss was saying his problem is sometimes he's too strong. Sometimes he throws the ball too hard. He'll never, one of his strengths is weakness. One of his weaknesses will never be his arm strength. That's what I'm trying to say.
To be correct, the last ball carrier I had at Brooks, it was Stanford Jennings. Not Brooks. Now Brooks is back with Alexander as the two setbacks for Cincinnati. Here's Esiason. This time he can't get away from the rush. It's Marshall and Martin. George Martin, who's always been a good pass rusher. Like he might be hurting just a bit.
Right, and I think the way that the Bengals are playing, where they're going to pass, we're going to see more and more of George Martin, because he's the pass rush end of the Giants. Here, he does a good job of just push against his tackle, Mike Wilson, and he finally gets all the way back to Esiason.
A loss of 8. Make it 3rd and 15. Bengals at the Giant 49. Esiason will go to work out of the spread. Here comes Lawrence Taylor on the blitz. He ducks him and throws. And hits Mike Martin. A gain of 20 and a Bengal first down. Elvis Patterson on the coverage. Oh, that's a sign of the times, that mobile quarterback, isn't it?
Watch how Esiason ducks under Taylor here. You see, he gets away from him. And then right there, I'll tell you who was blocking him, though, was James Brooks. You usually don't see that too often. See, Brooks is on him there. Looks like he may have grabbed him. Esiason is able that time to get around Lawrence Taylor to get the completion.
That's a good throw. On the move like that. There's the Giants 29 Bengals. They give straight ahead to Alexander. He jumps over the left side for about 3 before Gary Reasons gets him in midair.
One of the things I think about Esiason, Pat, is the fact that he's a left-handed quarterback. Most of the time when he rushes, when he gets rushed and he gets flushed out of the pocket, he's going to go left. He's done it 2 times already for big plays. I think the right side of the Giant defense is going to have to have a more controlled, contained rush on it.
It's a battle of the blondes. Esiason has very blonde hair, and so does, of course, Phil Simms. 2nd and 8. The Giant 27. Back to throw. For Brooks. Touchdown.
A heck of a throw. It was again a double team because they had Terry Kennard and Kenny Hill. He just looked like he looped this thing out here and just threw it out. Gave Brooks time to run. Kennard can't get there. Finally gets there too late, and it was over Kenny Hill's head.
Kreiner will hold and Breach will try for the extra point. They talk about how hard he throws the ball, but that had some touch.
I know it. He had good touch and he had good lead. He threw it well before Brooks made his cut.
Breach is good. We have 4:22 left to play in the first quarter at Riverfront Stadium. As you look at the back of James Brooks, the Bengals up 14-0. Jim Breach set to kick off for Cincinnati. And again, he's kicking off from that left hash mark. And kicking left. They're supposed to have 2 waves coming down to Kenny Hill. And the second wave gets him. It worked as it was supposed to be designed.
Let's watch the touchdown to James Brooks again. Here's Brooks. Here's Kenny Hill, who's going to cover him. Now, as Brooks comes out here, Hill tries to make contact, but in doing so, he loses Brooks. And then he never gets him back. Kennard finally gets over too late, but stop it right here. You see, right here is where he lost him. He went to hit him, and then he gets by him. Kennard can't get over.
Manuel in motion on first down. Reggie Williams tackles George Adams. For an NFL update, let's take you back to New York. And here is Brent Musburger.
Pat, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers setting up to kick a field goal against Los Angeles. It's a fake, and here comes Alan Risher inside the 5-yard line. They'll score a touchdown. They lead the Rams right now by a score of 7-0. Let's go back to Pat and John.
Here it's 14-0 with 3:40 left in the first quarter. Bengals on top at 2nd and 8. Simms back to throw. The man in his face. Still got it out to Manuel nevertheless, and that'll be enough for a first down.
You know that play that Tampa Bay ran there, Pat, that was an option play. It was an option play between the holder and the kicker going down the line. That's an old college play.
James Wilder, by the way, scored the Buccaneer touchdown. That comes as no surprise. They lead the unbeaten Rams 7-0. The Buccaneers have been able to move the ball, but they can't beat anybody. Rams 5-0, they're 0-5.
A lot like Cincinnati, they can move the ball and they're 1-4.
Here's Adams. Eddie Edwards cut him down about 5 yards deep in the backfield.
I'll tell you one thing, in this first quarter, it sure looks like to me that the Giants are just not up for this game, and the Bengals are very much up. You know, last week they both had disappointing losses. And it looks like to me that the Bengals have recovered more quickly than the Giants.
Well, that's what you said in the beginning. The team that has recovered is the team you think will win. Carl Sander is now one of the Bengal linebackers. Sims has time. He has Bobby Johnson, not enough for a first down. While we have a minute for them to reorganize, Detroit and Washington are tied 3-3 in Washington. That's first quarter. Houston over Cleveland, 3-0. That's also first quarter. We told you Tampa Bay leading the Rams 7-0. And Philadelphia over St. Louis 3-0. First quarter. A lot of field goals. Third and 6 at the 37. The Giant 37. Bengals leading 14-0. Somebody moved and flags come flying.
Eddie Edwards moved, and he's pointing and saying the Giants' offensive line moved first.
Ball start, number 61, 5 yards.
Jim Tunney, the referee.
Yeah, that's what Eddie Edwards saw. He saw Chris Godfrey move. Once that offensive line gets up there and gets set, they can't move anything. They move their hand, they twitch their head, they start to go back a little. Any of that thing can bring the defense off.
Bengals go with their nickel package set up now. Jimmy Turner, the 5th defensive back. James Griffin also in there. They need 12. Manuel will have it.
That's been a problem of the Cincinnati Bengal defense all year, is they come on a blitz and they don't have good enough cover guys. And if they pick up the blitz, you can usually complete the pass. Now watch, you see the blitz here. Now what happens when you get the blitz is that the corners are one-on-one in your wide receivers. So that puts Lionel Manuel on Louis Breeden. And Breeden cannot cover Manuel man-to-man.
Not many people can. Sam Weiss was saying everybody has been going for Breeden. There's the ball on the ground again. Sims got it back this time. But again, that's that problem we were talking about before. The exchange between Sims and Bart Oates.
I'll tell you, they have to get that straightened out. I mean, that's something you just can't live with. And I think the thing is we're going to see here that Sims, as he starts out, he has his hands in one position, then he puts them up into the second position. If the ball is snapped before he gets them into that second position, he's going to have the fumble.
That'll make it 2nd and 10. The Giants at the 48. Bengals short blitz. They do run some stunts up front, not a blitz. Sims gets it out to Mark Bavaro, the tight end. The rookie from Notre Dame, Jeff Shue, knocked him out of bounds.
I'm sure what the Giants are thinking of here is every game that they rush for 100 yards, they win. Every game they rush for less than 100 yards, they lose. But in this game, I think the passing looks so much easier against this Bengal defense than the running does.
That's basically why the Bengals have given up so many points. 3rd and 3. Sims from the spread. This time no blitz. Tony Galbraith. The ball was behind him. He couldn't hang on. And the Giants will have to punt. Reggie Williams back on the coverage. Getting back to the subject of Reggie Williams. They say that every time here in Cincinnati when they need an appearance at any kind of a benefit or anything that involves any sort of charity, and they call the Bengals, that he is always ready and always makes the appearance and always does it graciously.
I think the National Football League needs more guys like that, or we need more attention drawn to guys like that rather than some of the problems.
Isn't that the truth?
And he's a 10-year veteran from Dartmouth. You know, he's been around. He's been doing that for a long time.
Mike Martin signals for the fair catch and makes it at the Bengal 12. And then I was aiming for the sideline. 1:06 left first quarter, 14-0 Cincinnati. At Riverfront Stadium, warm and muggy fall afternoon in the Midwest. And the Bengals lead the Giants 14-0. Boomer Esiason has been perfect. 6 out of 6. 2 touchdowns. Eddie Brown is wide to the left. numbers to about the 15. Gary Reason smothered him there. A gain of about 3.
One thing the Giants do is the Giants in their defense play the run very well. And they try and they have good run guys in there when they have Curtis McGriff in there at that left end. They have Jim Burt in there at nose tackle. And they try and stop the run on first down like that, then bring in the George Martins, the Casey Merrills, and so on to get the pass rush.
Second down. Tyson fakes a reverse, leaves it with Brooks. And Brooks hammers outside the 30 for a Cincinnati first down. Elvis Patterson stopped him, or he might have been gone for bigger yardage.
One of the best moves that James Brooks made on that play was in the backfield. Watch here on the left side of the screen. Lawrence Taylor, 56. He's going to get penetration. Alexander gets him right there, but Brooks was able to make that move around Taylor, and that's the one that sprung him loose down the sideline.
And that's the end of the first quarter. The Bengals have had a very impressive first quarter. So has James Brooks. And Cincinnati leads the Giants 14-0 at the end of 1 at Riverfront Stadium.
Purdue battles Ohio State, and third-ranked Michigan takes on number 1 Iowa. Or see Auburn against Georgia Tech, a college football doubleheader next Saturday on CBS Sports.
Here in fabled New York Harbor, across the meadowlands of New Jersey to the Big Apple, the volunteer efforts of corporations and individuals are restoring the Statue of Liberty, the symbol of hope and promise to millions.
I'm Harry Carson of the New York Giants. And out there, across the nation, volunteers are working to restore dignity to the lives of people in need through agencies and programs of the United Way.
It all starts here, abandoned buildings serving no one. But here, with the help of the United Way, people are making a difference, creating new jobs and training people who are unemployed, restoring buildings and creating low-income housing for needy families. They're restoring some of the hope and promise that made our country great.
This is what we mean when we say the United Way is solving problems. Thanks to you, it works for all of us, the United Way. Right, guys?
Right! This message furnished by the National Football League.
AT&T and long-distance services, AT&T is the right choice. And by Sears, where you'll find great values. There's more for your life at Sears.
Back at Riverfront Stadium, Pat Summerall and John Madden ready to start the second quarter with Cincinnati leading the Giants 14-0. Boomer Esiason, the quarterback, second-year man from Maryland. Eddie Brown on his motion. Esiason looking left and throwing right to Brooks. Gary Reason's out there to nudge him out. See what Lawrence Taylor's been doing.
Well, you know, he hasn't been as obvious in the last few games as he has been in the early part of the season.
Bengals going with no huddle. And operating out of the spread formation. Esiason calls first to the right and then to the left to make sure everybody's got what he wants. Back to throw with time, with a receiver. Chris Collinsworth. Looks like he might be a yard or so shy of a first down as Lawrence Taylor took him down.
One thing about Esiason, when he throws the ball, he drills it. It doesn't stay in the air very long. And that's why he can be so successful against the zone defense. They can have a linebacker on both sides. They can have a Collinsworth come in between the two linebackers. And the way this guy zips the ball, those two linebackers can't react to get on it.
But yet he showed us on the touchdown pass to Brooks. You can lob it or touch it or whatever you want to call it when he has to. Alexander over the left side appeared to have the yardage necessary, but there's a penalty marker down.
You talk about two tight ends. The Bengals activated M.L. Harris this week, and they have 4 tight ends in their roster. So short yardage should never be a problem for them. Penalty should.
They were last week. First quarter dominated, as the score would indicate it, by the Bengals. Look at the yards rushing in the first quarter. 5 for the Giants, 27 for Cincinnati. And the yards passing, of course, and the total yards, a big difference.
I think that's the type of game it's going to be, too. I mean, I figure somewhere along the line the Giants will run better than that, but I think both of these
Measurement
teams...
indicates first down was made. Penalty offside. Offense will be accepted at 5 yards. Third down.
But both of these teams are passing teams. Now, what they did there is the Giants wanted that measurement, because if the Bengals would be short of a first down, then they wouldn't take it. They'd make them punt. So they take the measurement. They say, okay, you have a first down. Now do you want the penalty? The Giants said, yes, we'll take the 5-yard penalty, so it'll be 3rd and 5.
I wonder, because they were very close to that first down, I wonder, and all you can do is wonder, if the Giants had refused the penalty, would they have punted?
No, because it would have been a first down.
If they didn't make the first down, and it was 4th, that they only needed about a foot. I wonder if they'd gone for it.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think that the Giants would still take the 4th down, and I think the Bengals would have punted. So a 14-0 lead, yeah.
Esiason from the spread. Has the time. Terry Kennard got the hand on it. It was intended for number 36, Stanford Jennings, and now they will have to punt, so it worked out for the Giants. That's his first incompleted pass today.
Sam Weish was worried about Boomer yesterday. He still said he didn't know if he'd be able to play the whole game, because against the Jets he had his knee injured and ribs injured. And he said, we'll have to see. He said, I just don't feel comfortable that he'll be able to play the whole game, but he looks fine today.
He does. Pat McAnally back to punt for Cincinnati. Phil McConkey standing at about 18-yard line. Good kick by McAnally. McConkey retreats to the 16. And the Bengals are down in good shape this time. On special teams, it's Don Kern, one of those 4 tight ends. 14-0 Cincinnati over the Giants. We're still in the second quarter.
The year's top marathon field, including Olympic champion Joan Benoit, is expected in Chicago for America's Marathon next Sunday on CBS Sports.
14-0. The Cincinnati Bengals lead the Giants with 13:25 left to play in the first half. 7 rushes on first down for the Giants for -7 yards.
That plan's not working.
That creates some problems. Sims will throw it on first down. And he gets it out to Valaro, who heads up toward midfield. Hammers inside Cincinnati territory. Lewis Breeden knocked him out of bounds, but he gained 21.
I think that was a smart call, because they've been running so much on first down. Now they fake the run, bring the tight end, Mark Bavaro, across the field. Sims is able to hit him there, across the linebackers, front of the secondary. He's able to make a move on Breeden and pick up 20 yards. But I think it was smart, because they faked the run that they've been running on first down.
Do it again. No, it's Carpenter this time. Rob Carpenter jumps over the right side, gets down to about the 44. For a scoring update, let's take you again back to Brent Musburger in New York.
Well, Pat, the Rams have turned it around, and they did it on this scoring play right here. Dieter Brock to Bobby Duckworth. They're all tied at 7 now. Because of a turnover, they're coming back down again, and they could go up 14-7, but we'll keep you up to date. Let's go back to Pat.
14-0 here at Riverfront. Bill Sims up under the center, back to throw. Second down, he needs about 4. He'll get it. Gets to the Bengals 35. Jeff Shue and Ron Simpkins, the 2 Cincinnati tacklers.
You know, they're always talking football about running the ball, establish a run. to pass. Sometimes I think you can do the opposite and be more successful. I think sometimes you can establish the pass, and after you do that, that makes running easier. That's the way the Giants should do it today.
Particularly the way the defense has changed with the mass substitution. He fakes tomorrow. He goes to Bavaro. Same play in the other direction. Hammered out of bounds again by Breeden.
This is an interesting play here. Mark Bavaro. Again, it's the second time he's caught a crossing type of thing. You see, Sims fakes the run. Here comes Bavaro right in the middle of the screen. He comes across underneath those linebackers, catches the ball all the way in the opposite side of the field. But Bavaro, in the first 5 games, has caught 3 passes. Today already in the first half, he's caught 3 passes.
For 39 yards. He's already surpassed his yardage total for the year.
You know, sometimes I think it takes time for a rookie to work in and a quarterback to work with him. Zeke Mowat went down late in the preseason. Bavaro had to start. In the first few games, as Bill Parcells said, all Bavaro was doing was running assignments. That's all. Now, I think he has a feel of the game and can find openings and so on.
Well, if you remember back a couple of years ago, the same thing basically happened to Mowat.
That's exactly right. In Mowat's first year, he was just a blocker. You know, Zeke, go right and block, go left and block. Then they started dumping a few, and finally he realized, hey, I'm a pass receiver too.
Sims, 9 out of 11, 117 yards, having a good first half. His team losing, however, 14-0. Adams in the backfield. They fake to Adams this time. Sims going deep. Pass is picked off. James Griffin has the interception. Chris Godfrey brought him down. Lionel Manuel was the intended receiver.
I don't think Phil Sims saw James Griffin at all, Pat. Here's Griffin. He's going to be right in the middle of the screen. Watch the play pass again. Sims is looking at Manuel. He's throwing to Manuel, and watch, there's Griffin. Griffin comes from the middle and steps from the left to the right. See, this is what Sims sees. He sees Manuel out there. He sees number 20, Ray Horton. He's leading him away from Horton, but he threw it right into James Griffin, who was in the middle, who I'm sure he didn't see.
So the Bengals get that turnover and take the ball at their own 30. 1st and 10. Esiason back to throw. Running and throwing and getting it out to his tight end, Ray Holton. Rodney Holman, sorry.
It was funny on that play. Esiason could feel Byron Hunt, the rusher, and he was pushing Byron Hunt off as he threw that ball. Hunt was coming from his right side, and he was pushing him off like a straight arm, and then he was able to complete the pass.
2nd and 10, nevertheless, as the Bengals once again change receivers. Ross goes back in place of Rodney Holman. Collinsworth and Eddie Brown come wide to the left. Brooks. Nothing. Elvis Patterson came up to make the stop. Brian Blados was out in front of Brooks.
I can see why Coach Sam Weiss was saying we're going to throw tomorrow, because they're a much better passing team than they are a running team.
Seems to me they always have been in recent years.
Sam Weiss, of course, comes from that, having coached as assistant with Bill Walsh. That's the way the 49ers were.
3rd and 10 still. Size back from the spread. Eddie Brown. 1st down. Ted Watts or the stop. Their 1st round draft choice from the University of Miami, Florida.
Well, we see him working on Ted Watts out here. He has that good quick move. Now he comes to the middle of Esiason. Just got the ball out in front of him. Now that was poor coverage by Watts. I don't know. Watts started in, and then just kind of held up. And he let Eddie Brown get away from him.
1st and 10 for the Bengals. Alexander in motion. Handoff is to Brooks. Brooks breaks one tackle. Got away from Lawrence Taylor is hammered to the ground. Perry Williams with a vengeance after James Brooks.
I think that can be called a vengeance. It could also be called frustration. I think the Giants, they lost that tough one last Sunday night to Dallas. Coming back to that, I think that frustrating. They get down 14-0 here, and this looks like in the first half that the Giants are a frustrated team offensively and defensively.
2nd and 4. I think frustration is the word that would apply to Lawrence Taylor, too, as they're using different blocking schemes on him. Double team. Sison back to throw. Penalty marker is down, and so is Collinsworth. Kenny Hill, perhaps with a late hit.
I think that's what the Giants are going to have to watch out for. That usually, again, comes out of frustration. It's a tough thing because you're on that guy, you're covering him, you want to stay with him, he catches the ball, and you have to pull off when he's down.
Play half the distance of the goal line, first down.
Let's see if it's Hill or Kennard.
Well, here everything's okay. Kennard makes a tackle, so he's okay. No, it was Kenny Hill when he came in late. Usually the thing that they'll call that on is when they spear him towards the head. If it's in the back or in the ribs, they sometimes will let those go. But the one that is directed towards the head will always bring a yellow flag.
Collinsworth came out, and Steve Kreider has taken his place wide to the left. Brown up at the top of the picture. Brooks straight ahead. Brooks to the 5. Harry Carson tripped him up.
This is an interesting thing. What they do is they take this back here, and they're going to bring him out to get the defense to look at him, and then just hit Brooks straight against the motion. You see, they bring the back out in motion. Now they delay Brooks and hit him and a delay right there through the hole that was vacated by the guy who went with the motion guy.
Didn't pull anybody.
No.
Brooks just found the hole. 2nd and 1. There is the 5. It's Brooks again. He's in the end zone.
This Cincinnati offense has this Giant defense whipped.
Confused and whipped. Jim Breach will try for the extra point.
White 10! Ready!
And it's good, and the Bengals move out to a 21-0 lead.
The Redskins and the Giants will collide in a big NFC East showdown. Or the Cardinals take on the Steelers among the regional games next Sunday on CBS Sports.
We're at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. Pat Summerall and John Madden. The Bengals totally dominating the first half. That's their last scoring drive. James Brooks' second touchdown. Breach to kick off in that same coverage. And Kenny Hill takes it at the 3. About the 28. Touchdown again.
Let's watch the touchdown. Now what happens? Alexander, the fullback, starts this way. That takes Reasons, who's keying him. He goes this way. Then Brooks is able to run back in the hole. Watch it. He's keying right across here to the fullback. See him? Look at the fullback. Now stop it right there. Here's Reasons. He's here because the fullback's here. Then this hole opens up right here. See if Brooks can just get right back in that hole that the linebacker vacated.
Joe Morris, the lone setback. Morris split wide to the right. Carpenter was the setback, and they get it out to him. the 30 to about the 32. Out of bounds. Stop the clock. Clock still running. They say he didn't get out of bounds. So it's 6:50 left to play in the first half, and Cincinnati leading 21-0.
Yeah, when we were over there with the Bengals yesterday, you could just get the feeling that none of those coaches, none of those players believed that they were out of anything or they were a bad team. They had the feeling they knew they could play this way all along and just haven't done it.
Sims back to throw. Has been at his face, but he gets it to Morris. And Morris ducks under Jeff Shue. Enough for a first down. Warm and humid in Cincinnati. In Tampa, the Rams have taken the lead over the Buccaneers 14-7. In Indianapolis, Denver leads the Colts 6-0. Buffalo, New England, 0-0. Washington 17-3 over Detroit. Riggins has scored twice. Morris goes in motion. Carpenter the lone back. Sims retreats. Going deep and completes to Bavaro. Bavaro taken down finally by James Griffin, who made that clutch key interception on the last Giant trip down the field. A gain of 32. A big day for number 89.
That was an interesting play. What they did is they put Joe Morris out in motion, and that took the corner off on that side and then ran Bavaro to the corner. See, Bavaro's coming out here to the corner. Morris is out there. You see him outside. That brought the corner on that side up and off so Bavaro could get in behind him.
Giants at the Bengal 30. Sims will go to work on first down again and gets it across the middle to Bavaro. Having a big day. Ron Simpkins tripped up the big tight end. Green Bay leading Minnesota 7-0. Carpenter is down on the field. Rob Carpenter, who had a big contingent of fans. In fact, a busload coming to watch him play here. His home is close by as Bill Parcells looks on. Carpenter's still down. You know, he's coming back and making a gallant comeback from a knee injury. Hope that's not what it is. Rob Carpenter, still not sure what the injury is, but being helped off the field. Don't forget that coming up next, most of you will see the Chicago Bears take on the San Francisco 49ers in a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game. Others of you will see the Atlanta Falcons against the Seattle Seahawks. That match, John, between the Bears and the 49ers ought to be a good one.
But, you know, it looks this year, you know, Jim McMahon is back. He didn't play in last year's championship game, the last two times these teams met, and now he's the leading passer in the league. But Joe Montana is the leading passer in football. And I think the 49ers at San Francisco, even though they're 3-2, are still going to be very tough.
I agree with you. Bobby Johnson goes in motion. 2nd and 6 at the 26. Sims back to throw. Intended down the middle for his tight end once again, Mark Bavaro. James Griffin on the coverage, and it's incomplete. 3rd and 6 at the 26.
You know, it's an interesting thing about Bavaro. The day that they're working, that Don Hasselbeck, the backup tight end, was injured last week, pulled a hamstring. Bavaro was the only tight end that the Giants had early in the week. Then later, they signed Vito Pav. So Vito is going to get some work today, mostly in short yardage.
Vito, of course, played with the Philadelphia Eagles. Went to Penn State. Sims operating on the spread. Bengals trying to get to him. They can't. This is Tony Galbraith. That's enough for a Giant first down to the Bengal 15. Leo Parker on the tackle. Houston surprisingly leading Cleveland 6-0. Philadelphia on 2 field goals over the Cardinals 6-0 second quarter. And Dallas on a touchdown pass from Danny White to Tony Dorsett over the Steelers in the second, 7-3.
Pat, we just heard that Rob Carpenter has a slight concussion, and it's doubtful whether he'll return.
Sims retreats on first down. Fires outside, complete. Bounces out of the hands of of Maurice Carthen. Reggie Williams was the defender, but that ball was there.
Of course, the Giants have three fullbacks, Carpenter, Carthon, and Galbraith. Galbraith is a pass receiver. I think Carpenter is both, and Carthon is more the running guy.
The blocker.
Yeah, he's going to be the guy who's in there when they're going to ball control, block, run some fullback power stuff, but not really the receiver.
Right now, the deep man is the man you mentioned, Tony Galbraith. Sims over the middle to Lionel Manuel. Taken down from behind by Lewis Breeden. You know, it's funny. Sam Weiss was talking about before, as I said, everybody seems to work on Lewis Breeden. It's funny how the word gets around that here's the guy you can beat, and it just goes from team to team to team, and everybody starts going in that direction.
Well, I think the thing that surprised Sam Weiss is that he's surprised that they haven't worked on his other guy, Ray Horton, in his second year. He said, but every week, he said they'll come out and everyone's throwing at Breeden. He said, I'm surprised they don't go to that other guy some.
Third down. Sims is going right to work. Maybe. He's in the grasp of Ross Browner. And down he goes. Browner got to Sims. And they'll have to go for the field goal after a loss of 7.
And I think Sims was trying to go to work on Breeden again out here to the right side. Watch him. He's looking right all the way, trying to go. Then he had to come off. Then he started to look to the left, and Ross Browner was right in his face.
Brad Benson just tried to cut him. Browner got inside.
That's what he was looking for right there. Really what he saw was a zone. I think he expected man-to-man. I think that was a big surprise.
Rutledge was hold. Good. And a kick by Atkinson is good. There's Rob Carpenter over on the sideline. That 33-yard field goal is good by Jess Atkinson. And it's 21-3. Next Saturday, there's a college football doubleheader here on CBS. First in a nationally televised game, Purdue will battle Big Ten powerhouse Ohio State. Then many of you will see third-ranked Michigan take on Heisman candidate Chuck Long and his #1 ranked Iowa Hawkeyes. Or maybe you'll see Bo Jackson and Auburn take on Georgia Tech. Check the local listings for the games in your area next Saturday beginning at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time, right here on CBS. 21-3, Atkinson will kick off. Brooks and Martin will go back deep for the Bengals. Just going to say we have 3:15 left in the first half.
Just saying, Bill Parcells was saying last night that Atkinson is kicking pretty well, in the field goals and extra points. Although he missed an extra point, say, but where he's killing us is with his short kickoff.
Here's one of them. Brooks at the 10-yard line. Brooks dancing out to about the 26 before Herb Welch is down to knock him down. That is so important, especially since now you kick off from the 35, that you've got somebody who can get that ball down close to the end zone.
Well, the goal is always to keep the team inside the 20-yard line. That's what you always want your kickoff coverage to do. This one here really isn't bad. The ball's on the 25-yard line, but as Bill was saying, he said sometimes out there to the 40 or 50, and that's like 2 or 3 first down.
Brown is split wide to the left. Collinsworth wide to the right. Boomer Esiason, the quarterback. He said they're going to throw it, and they indeed have thrown it. Collinsworth has it. Enough for a first, but there are flags down on the field everywhere. Kenny Hill, the defender.
That'll probably be 2 different penalties. There's a flag on this side of the field and one on that side of the field. I wouldn't be surprised if they're offsetting. Here's the second one. You see, he's coming in and say, hey, wait a minute, Jim, I had something over here, too.
Let's see what Jim has to say.
Illegal formation, offense, 5 yards, still first down.
What he's saying is they both had the same thing. The guy on this side of the field saw the same infraction the guy on the other side of the field saw.
Must have really been serious.
We're tuned in. This is a good officiating crew. I've always felt that Jim Tunney is one of the finest, if not the finest, referee in the National Football League. He always has control of the game.
Brown and Collinsworth wide to the left. They give it to Brooks. Brooks fumble. And the Bengals fall on it. Esiason and Brooks both diving. Leonard Marshall applied the pressure.
He applied the pressure. It looked like Big Leonard. Brooks is going to try and cut back. And as he cuts back, right on the left of your screen, you see Leonard Marshall coming off a block there. Leonard Marshall sticks that right hand in there and punches the ball right out. It's just that he didn't have any of his other defensive guys in position to recover the fumble. Watch his right hand go in there and punch the ball out. He just went in there, put it, knocked it out, but there was no other Giant defenders close enough to recover.
That really is not an accident that he knocked that ball loose. That's something they teach.
Well, you always try and teach that, you know, to strip the ball, to punch the ball out of there, to get that hand on the ball.
2-minute warning at Riverfront Stadium with the score. Cincinnati Bengals 21, the Giants just 3. Don't forget CBS Sports will present Patrick Ewing's NBA debut Saturday, October the 26th, when his New York Knicks take on Moses Malone and the Philadelphia 76ers. And that'll be a test for Patrick, who is perhaps the most celebrated and heralded player to come into the NBA since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar way back in 1969. So don't forget that. And don't forget also, at the half, Brent will be with you to bring you scores and highlights of everything's happened around the NFL today. On the 6th Sunday, Eddie Brown split wide to the right. Mike Martin is wide to the right. Esiason looking and incompleting, intended for Brown. While we have a second, let's get the scoring up to date. The Buccaneers have recaptured the lead. Steve DeBerg to Kevin House at 17-14 Tampa Bay in the second quarter. And Minnesota has tied Green Bay on a touchdown pass by Tommy Kramer to Mike Jones. Philadelphia, surprisingly, Ron Jaworski has hit John Spagnola, who's been outstanding for about 3 weeks now. And they lead the Cardinals 13-0. Cardinals can't seem to get things on track. 3rd and 22. Both teams have all of their timeouts remaining, all 3. Minute 55 left to play in the first half. Alexander on the move. Esiason gets it out. He is hammered almost immediately by Kenny Hill. And the Bengals, Pat McInally, will come onto the scene to punt it. Clock is stopped with 1:45 left to play in the first half.
Well, the Giants are taking a timeout. What they're trying to do is they can see with the ball in the 15 that they're going to get the ball back in good field position, and they want some time to work. They want to have a little time left in the clock.
And they'll have 2 timeouts left when they get it back. Again, coming up at the half, Brent Musburger will update you with scores and highlights of today's NFL action, and a feature on finesse against force, featuring Bill Walsh and Mike Ditka. You can guess which one is which. And of course, those two match up when the Bears meet the 49ers in the second half of today's CBS doubleheader, which will be seen for a change in New York. You'll be able to see the Bears and the 49ers. Certainly 2 of the best teams in the NFL this year. And Jim McMahon playing extremely well. 49ers beat them last year in the championship game. McMahon could not play. McInally standing at the 1. Giants put the rush on. He gets it off. Knuckleball. McConkey handles it in his own 44. Bengals special teams this time do the job. Nevertheless, the Giants do get the ball in Bengal territory at their 49. Carl Zander was the man down to make the hit. High first-round draft choice, second-round draft choice for the Bengals last year.
I think that this is a very important drive here because, you know, they always talk about the momentum. Obviously, the first half momentum belongs to Cincinnati, but the Giants have a chance here to get it back. It's always important if you can get it back before you go into the locker room. A lot of times that'll carry you over into the second half.
Manuel's put out wide to the right. Sims back in the pocket, hit just as he let the ball go. Incomplete. Reggie Williams was the man who hit Sims just as he started to fire.
Reggie Williams is playing a lot like Lawrence Taylor used to play. It seems like every time there's a play, it seems like Reggie Williams is around there today, and we haven't heard or seen much of Lawrence Taylor.
Reggie came over to the sideline and got some instructions from the coaching staff. It'll be 2nd and 10 at the Bengal 49. Sims out of the spread. Has some time and has Phil McConkey, who jumps out of bounds and stops the clock with a minute 22. Jimmy Turner knocked him out of bounds. Sims today has been sacked twice, hurried 3 times, had 3 knocked down, 1 interception. Other than that, he's had a pretty good day.
Yeah, but that's only the first half, too. You know, if those numbers keep multiplying, then we may see this guy, Jeff Rutledge, there. I mean, a quarterback could only take so many of those knockdowns and sacks and so on.
1st and 10 Giants. Bengals leading 21-3. Sims to work to Manuel. In front of Breeden. And he's out of bounds at about the 21. A pickup of 17.
Lionel Manuel, as we were saying earlier, is becoming a star in this league because he can not only catch the ball, but he has that great ability with quickness and the quick feet and being able to run out of a move. Those all make him get open or help him get open. You know, there's 2 things. One, if you can just catch the ball and you can't get open, then you're no good. Or if you can't catch the ball after you get open, you have to be able to do both.
Bengal 21, Sims to work again. Has a man wide open, it's Bobby Johnson. And he's out of bounds inside the 5 at about the 3. A gain of 18, no Bengals even close.
It looks like Bobby Johnson was just standing on the sideline there. Phil Sims is looking to the right, then he comes back and he sees Johnson out there standing right along the sideline. And he said, whoa, I got one open down deep. I think that's Bobby Johnson's first catch today. The Bengals are rushing 4. They're a 3-man line, but on passing downs they bring in and rush 4. That one there was good pass protection by the Giants. That's what they have to do for Phil Sims.
First and goal at the 3. Adams is stopped short of the goal line. A fumble. And the Bengals have the football. Ron Simpkins made the recovery.
That's another thing the Giants have to stop doing. That's the 3rd time that rookie George Adams has fumbled the ball in the goal line. And you can only, I know about confidence, you have to keep playing, but you can only have so many of those things. You see, he got it stripped right there at the end. He took the hit on, he had the ball protected, and watch, coming out of that hit, watch, right there he got stripped.
It was Simpkins who got his arm in there and came up with the football.
That's a double dipper. You see, it doesn't come out there. It's right now. Simpkins comes in, gets that right hand, and just strips that ball out of George Adams' arm.
Exactly a minute left to play in the first half. Bengals 21, Giants 3. They have it at their own 5, 1st and 10. Ross was the man in motion. They give it to Brooks. Brooks gets out to about the 11. Here's what John Madden was just talking about. Look at this fumble comparison between this year and last.
Well, you see, they've already had 15 fumbles thus far in 6 games. Last year, they only had 17 all year. And I tell you, those are the things. You know, you can talk about offense, defense, special teams, matchups, how this team, that team coaches. But the big thing, the thing that'll kill you are these turnovers.
Number 2.
The Giants have called a timeout. That's their 2nd, so they'll have 1 left. And there are 37 seconds left on the clock. scoring by quarters for the Giants in 1985. Even in the first. Slight edge for the opponents in the second, but look at what the Giants have done in the third quarter. We'll keep watching that.
You know, it's interesting. They're 3-2, but the only quarter that they score more than their opponents is the third quarter. Now, you know, I think had the Giants scored there, and then you add this third quarter things that they've done, I think we would have had a real good ball game. I think that fumble is going to be a big turning point in this game.
On the other hand, we have a chance to look at one of the league's high-scoring teams. In fact, the Bengals are third in the league in total points. Look what they've done. And look how many points they've scored.
That's a good news, bad news thing. You look at the top line and say, holy moly, look how many points the Bengals have scored. Then you look at the bottom line and you say, whoa, yeah, look at all the opponents, all the points the opponents have scored. The good news, yeah, we scored a lot of points. The bad news is so the other guys.
Don't forget again at the halftime, Brent Musburger will be with you with scores and highlights. The feature on finesse and force, Bill Walsh and Mike Ditka. And also live in our studio will be one of the great 49er quarterbacks, and they've had a lot of them, John Brody. Second and 6, Ross is in motion again. Esiason looking downfield, has a lot of time, stays in bound and just kneels. Lets that clock keep running. The Giants have one more timeout.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen a quarterback do that. He started to scramble. He was trying to hit Chris Collinsworth out there, and he couldn't do it, so he just took a knee. He said, I'm down. I've seen fighters do that.
Yeah.
You know, they're getting pounded, boom, 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 and they take a knee. Esiason was looking out there. He's waiting for Collinsworth. Couldn't find anything, so he just took a knee. I'm down.
Third and 8, the ball at the 7. The Giants have used their last timeout. Harry Carson trots over to the side, and Boomer Esiason comes over to talk with Sam White. 19 seconds left to play in the first half, with the Bengals leading at 21-3. The Giants have been down there a couple of times. One drive stopped by an interception, the other by a fumble.
Boomer Esiason was saying last week, Pat, that against the Jets, that was the worst beating that he's ever taken in his life. He said he had the feeling that they just came in there with one thought in mind, and that was to knock his head off. He said if that was their game plan, he said they really did a good job. He said it was towards the end of the week before he started walking normal.
Well, he did take a beating. In fact, the Bengals felt very strongly that some of the hits that he got last week were late and unnecessary. Logically, they would. Mentioned how many points the Bengals have scored. The highest scoring team is the Bears. Denver's second, and then Cincinnati, in spite of the fact that they're 1-4. Everybody else on that list has a winning record.
Yeah, but then you have to go and you have to show the defensive stats and the special teams stat. Those are the two things that have been hurting them this year, not offense.
Esiason just kneels. Giants can't stop it anymore. That should do it for the first half. As the Bengals and Giants head for the locker room, a very impressive first half for the men in black with the striped helmets, the Cincinnati Bengals. At the end of the half, Cincinnati 21, the Giants 3, but the Giants have been able to move the ball. So has Cincinnati, and they lead it in the half.
Sponsored by Honda, who invite you to see the new Accord hatchbacks and four-door sedans at your local Honda dealer. Budweiser, for all you do, this Bud's for you. And by Liberty Mutual, for your auto, home, life, and business insurance.
Back in New York, I'm Brent Musburger with John Brody. The Giants are flat in Cincinnati.
They are, and it happens often when you lose a game you should have won, as they should have beaten the Dallas Cowboys.
Why those exchange fumbles on the part of the Giants?
Well, I'll tell you, it's the sort of thing you practice all year long in training camp. There is no excuse for it. Sometimes a new center can be the reason, but there's still no excuse.
Exactly. Let's get everybody to the scoreboard and get them up to date. The Buccaneers lead the Rams 17-14 as we go to the highlights. John, why don't more teams use the fake field goal?
I really don't know. I think it's open a little more often than it's utilized. Here, Alan Richard takes it on a 4th down and 3, runs it all the way inside the 5-yard line, gets Tampa off to a good start against a team that should beat them. These sort of plays kept them in the ball game early.
James Wilder got the touchdown, John. Listen, what about Dieter Brock out here with the Rams?
Dieter Brock is the guy that the Rams love. He thinks he's just the mold they need. They don't want the sort of fella throwing the ball all over the ballpark because they have number 29, Eric Dickerson. They want him to be the feature in their attack with their great defense. I like Dieter. They love him.
Here is the touchdown pass. DeBerg to House. And now the Buccaneers have stopped the Rams on a 4th down, and the Rams, or I should say 3rd down, so the Rams on 4th down will try to kick a field goal that would knot that game all up. Meanwhile, Denver and Indianapolis in this game, the Broncos miss an extra point, and Buffalo in New England right now, Tony Eason has been injured, and so Steve Grogan is in quarterbacking the Patriots. They are in the 2nd quarter of that one. Washington and Detroit, the Redskins, we all thought perhaps they were finished. They came back on Monday night impressively, and what about Joe Theismann, John?
Well, I think right now Joe is keeping his mouth shut. It's very atypical for him, but he's playing up to the level he had played in the previous few years. He's got all his horses back to work, and number 44 is the perfect illustration of that. Joe knows his personality. As a group, he has to give it to Reagan. Now Rodgers gets in there, but I'm a Joe Theismann fan.
The Redskin defense has also been opportunistic. Off the tip ball, it is Tony Peters coming away with the interception, and hey, it's nice to have the big diesel here.
Listen, when they win, they get turnovers, and then they hand it to number 44.
This is as good a run as I've seen him make since the Super Bowl years. I'll tell you, 13 carries, 68 yards, a couple of touchdowns for John already in that game. Minnesota and Green Bay, they are tied at 7 in that game. And yes, Bud Grant does have another 4th and 1 in this game. Here goes Lynn Dickey now. He'll hit Jesse Clark for the Packers. And Green Bay struck first in the game, and Forrest Greggs had a disappointing start, but they're coming back. Well, the 4th and 1, was it a good call last Sunday and here too?
I think it was last Sunday because I think he'd have given a lot to have a chance to beat the Rams in their own ballpark by gaining under a yard. I think it was a good call this time. They're 7 down. They haven't gotten anything to work yet. Tommy Kramer finally hit somebody for 6, and now it's tied.
All right, so it is tied at 7 now, and they are at the half of that game. Cleveland and Houston, a couple of Zendejas field goals. It is 6-0. The Oilers leading the Browns in that one. Philadelphia and St. Louis. How about the Eagles not only winning this game, but they are shutting the Cardinals out? John, what about Neil Lomax?
All right, perfect example. Last Monday night, they're having a little trouble recovering. I think Lomax is another talent. They're spread throughout the league. They're all 6'4", 6'5", with big arms. But to get a consistent big play quarterback, you've got to have an outstanding team. I think his team has to get a little better first.
John, they've had a big play down in Dallas here this afternoon. Danny White, 57 yards to Tony Dorsett, got him isolated with a linebacker, zipped the ball to him. He simply outran everybody else. 10-3, Cowboys lead there at the half of that one. Cincinnati and the Giants, we've talked about this one. The Bengals lead it. The Giants will need a good comeback. The Bengals may be a better team than their one-loss record indicates. And the NFL Today continues on CBS after these messages from your local stations. Welcome back to New York. As you know, of course, the big one still to come here this afternoon on CBS. The unbeaten Chicago Bears against the defending Super Bowl champion San Francisco 49ers. And Irv Cross, when the season began, you told me the 49ers are the top power in the NFL.
Well, a lot of people still feel that, Brent, but you know, the undefeated Bears are being touted by some as a new power in the NFL. But Coach Mike Ditka remembers all too well what happened the last time he went up against Bill Walsh and the San Francisco 49ers. Now, Wayne Walker reports on how the two coaches have fared since they last met in last year's NFC title game.
I got a little frustrated myself on the sideline, and we really departed from what had got us to the playoff game, and it hurt. And I would blame myself for that more than anybody else. We're going to try to prepare our football team as good as we can to play the best team in football, and they are the best team in football. They're the world champions, and it's going to be a tremendous challenge for us to be able to stay on the field with them.
In the past, we'd finish people. This year, we let down once we got the lead, assuming we were going to win the game, and we lost it. I think we have a good attitude, and we still are the reigning champions, but we are yet to be in sync as a football team. We haven't played the kind of football that we expected. We've seen it in spots, but we've made more error. than we have in the past, and those errors have cost us 2 ball games as of now, hopefully not anymore. Bill Walsh and the defending Super Bowl champion 49ers have been an inconsistent 3-2, still looking for their 1985 identity. So for this game at least, it appears that the pressure is on Bill Walsh and the 49ers. The critical factor, it'll be a hard-hitting, punishing game, but at some point some mental error will be made by someone on either team, and it could be the difference. Unlike the last meeting, the daring and sometimes reckless Jim McMahon will start. He guides the highest scoring offense in the NFL. It's a balanced attack that no longer relies solely on Walter Payton. This diversified offense gives Mike Ditka newfound confidence.
Going in this time, we're a little better on the offensive side of the ball, and our offense right now is becoming very, very confident because of what Jim McMahon has done. He just believes that there's not a situation that he can't overcome. He's our catalyst, just like Joe Montana is the 49ers catalyst. But I don't know how we're going to contain Montana. I doubt that you really contain him. I think the best thing we could do is put a lot of pressure on him. If we could do that, I think we would help ourselves tremendously. This will be a knockdown, drag them out, rock them, sock them, old-time football game on grass. They lull you to sleep, and then they hit you in the head with a sledgehammer. And we're going to have to stand up and match him physically as well as mentally on all sides of the ball.
Both teams have undergone some major changes since last year. Now, the 49ers drafted Jerry Rice in the first round, a great wide receiver with deep speed, but Coach Walsh isn't quite sure how he's going to respond in a pressure situation. The Bears, on the other hand, with their #1 pick, William the Refrigerator Perry, who came into camp at 340 pounds, has trimmed down to a svelte 318 and has become a holy terror on special teams. So watch him on the kickoff because he comes down with a wallop. It's going to be a real barn burner. Brett?
All right, Irv, thank you. John Brody, you told me this is the kind of game in which a star suddenly emerges.
I think it's very true so many times, and I look for Jerry Rice to have a big day. He'll get a lot of chances one-on-one. If the 49ers are going to win, I think he has to have a big one.
You've got a lot of respect for the Chicago Bears right now.
I do. I think all they need is a little respect for themselves. They're one win away, in my opinion, from getting that.
And that one could be coming up this afternoon. So the big one's still ahead of us, Chicago against San Francisco. And right now, let's send you back to the stadium and the game you're enjoying on CBS.